everybody, welcome back to a cabin. You can see the old farmhouse behind me, log cabin. 150 years old I think it is, and it belongs to my sister. So that's what I wanted to talk about in this video, the change in my self-reliance, or rather the addition of another new channel called Our Self-Reliance, where I show what I'm doing on 3 homesteads, multiple homesteads that are being set up, maintained, built from scratch, and regenerated. In the case of this old farm, 100-acre farm in the wilderness. So essentially what it is my sister's family and my family building these 3 homesteads to sustain what will end up being 6 families. My wife and I, my sister and her partner, and our 2 kids each and their future families. So it's going to be a lot of mouths to feed off these 3 properties over time. And because we're starting from basically scratch, that means a lot of infrastructure going in over the next several years, and over the last 4 years on my 2 homesteads that I've been building essentially since the beginning of spring 2020. So when my wife and I moved out of the cabin, the old cabin, we were building another homestead at the same time from scratch, from bare woods, forested property that we cleared and built a house on, and a garden, and the infrastructure to support a family. In that case, our 2 daughters, and now their future families. Like I said, the properties will be set up to provide enough food and energy and water, everything we need to thrive, basically, for all these 6 families. So, big task, but the reason I wanted to put it on another channel is that it really doesn't make sense here in my self-reliance, where you guys have been following along my wilderness life. Callie, that's not helpful, pup. Rolling in the grass. So I'd rather, especially because there's multiple people involved, I'd rather just show it on this second channel where it's really homesteading, in the traditional sense. So farmsteading, raising livestock, raising a massive amount of plant crops, food crops, firewood from the forest, lumber from the forest, energy from solar, water everywhere, like I said, ponds here, pond on the other property, streams, springs. So yeah, 3 homesteads in the old sense of what a homestead is. The 2 properties that my wife and I developed, and me alone on the cabin property, from scratch, basically as a man, me going out, finding land to homestead on, clearing that land, building a homestead from scratch, with the building, starting off with the cabin and the gardens and the sheds and so on. And that's what this would have been 150 years ago, when this land was cleared originally. Log cabin was built, and rather than replace that log cabin over time, they just added on to it and then added the other structures there, which are going to need some renovation. So that's what I will be doing here on this property. Is first project will be to restore that barn right there, just to make it safe to store hay in and have goats underneath in the bottom. The chicken coop will have to be torn down and moved over closer to the main garden and the house. The loft, the loft in that barn needs to be fixed up, the floor made a little bit safer. Hey pup. So that we can store hay in there and then throw it down to the goats over this winter. And then major project will be to get a fence around this 5 acres that I just spent mowing here. And that's going to be a traditional split rail fence, which you really don't see being built too often anymore. Usually it's just a page wire fence with posts. This will be, like I said, a traditional split rail fence that'll go around most of this. We're going to divide this into 4 paddocks, and maybe just 1 paddock, and then the side facing the homestead will have the split rail fence, and then I think maybe a wire fence through the forest here. So speaking of energy, and solar energy in particular, what we're doing right now is setting up, what I'm doing today is setting up the Jackery system, the home backup system, hooking it up to the main cabin, the main house, so that my sister has power in the case of outages, which we get a lot of in this area, especially in the winter with the heavy snows and the ice and windstorms and so on. And Jackery is a sponsor of this video. I've been using Jackery products for 6 or 7 years now. You can see the other smaller units that I've been using that I've talked about in the past. This home backup system, Emily and I actually got them last summer, used them on camping trips, and then I've been using it as a backup for the homestead. And now we're hooking it up, like I said, to Corrine, my sister's house, as a backup, and probably more of a primary, and then she'll use the distribution grid as her backup, so a little bit different as far as utilization. So this switch, that's what that does. You have it installed by your electrician. It's very simple install.
Oh, thanks.
Turn off both main breakers on both panels. Larger panel, turn on, go to garage. So turn that off. Go to garage, park generator. The Jackery, what I love about it is that it's expandable, so each unit, 2000 Pro Plus, is 2000 watts. And then I have a second one, and when you join those two together, you can actually get 240 volts out of it, which allows you to power things like a deep well pump, which she does have here, the stove or the oven, although she, as well as us, cook mostly with wood. And then if you have a clothes dryer or any heating elements that take a lot of power, they're usually 240 volts. So by combining these two units, you can get 240 volts for that purpose. And then the expandable batteries, they're each 2000 watts as well. And you can scale that all the way up to 24,000 watts, which is just huge. I would run a place like this 2 or 3 times over. And really then it just becomes a matter of how many solar panels you have to charge. Now the thing with these Jackery units, they charge really quickly. So if you want to charge it with your existing AC power, for example, you can charge the system, charge each battery pack in less than 2 hours plugged into the wall. What I like to do, what I've done in the past when I was running the cabin with this system, I'd run the generator to power the freezer and whatever. Oh, I had a hot plate, induction hot plate. I'd run that off the generator, but at the same time I'd be charging the Jackery, and then as soon as that was up to full power, I just unplug it and go unplug the generator or turn off the generator, use the Jackery directly, which was much quieter. Hooked up to solar panels, you can hook up 1200 watts to each of these 2000 plus systems, and that will charge in about 2 hours. So that'll be one of the challenges that we'll have to take on soon, is where the solar panels are going to go to charge the unit, so that she doesn't have to keep plugging in a generator, which she really hates the sound of. And trying to get off fossil fuels. All 3 homesteads, we're trying to completely eliminate fossil fuels so that we can, operate in a future of either less available fossil fuel or too expensive to operate a homestead on. So if you want to learn more about Jackery, you can click on the link below. And if you want to check out the actual system that we're using, there's a link below for that as well. There's a US store and a Canadian store, so just click on the appropriate link from wherever you are. Alright, so if you are interested in this content and you want to actually watch homesteading and you want to be introduced to my family over time, you want to just follow our progress on how we develop this and how we become completely self-sufficient as a extended family, or if you just want to be entertained by that and you find the old ways fascinating, because we really are into old-fashioned homesteading. My sister Corrine, I've mentioned her I think in the past, not by name, but I would say that she's basically my mentor. She's who introduced me to permaculture and homesteading, like farmsteading, I would say. You don't sound very good. Back in early 2000s, and then it really hit home for my wife and I and our family in 2008 when we watched Food Inc. and we started growing and raising a lot of our own food. And then when we lost our business at the end of 2010, we really started focusing on becoming more self-reliant. We basically started preparing for other situations that might happen in the future, like was happening to us at that time when we lost the business and we were massively in debt. So we took control of our own lives, we took control of our food in particular, and then our energy, water, and shelter. Basically, our self-reliance, if you head on over there, that's where you're going to find all of that content. Here on my self-reliance, I'm just going back to everything I do solo in the wilderness, essentially. So the cabin homestead, which I'm still setting up as a potential family compound, but also for me and maybe a bunch of guys just to use as a hunt camp, but one that's completely self-sufficient and capable of supporting a family in wild game, forage plants, fish, all the plants that I'm growing, a massive food forest, and the food plot areas, the wildlife food forest that I'm developing throughout the property to attract and hold more wildlife, as well as bushcraft, the bushcraft camp that I'm setting up, the workshop, the butcher shop, the blacksmith shop, the maple syrup shack, and lumber storage and so on. That will all be here on this channel, My Self-Reliance. So all the wilderness hand tools stuff that I'm so passionate about, that I will get back to or continue doing, but I'll get back to more and more over time as I get older and get infrastructure built so I can get off the system and really back to where my heart really is, and that's off-grid wilderness living. When you head on over to Our Self-Reliance, please subscribe, because it's highly likely, being a new channel and being a small channel, that you're not going to be recommended my videos unless you're really interested and you subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you're notified when I put up a video. I think even if you enter Our Self-Reliance as a search term, you might have trouble finding me at first. And hopefully we provide enough content to keep you interested, entertained, and educated. So that's it. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I look forward to seeing you back at the cabin next time. Take care.
We'll go for a swim, but you get the other one.